So how do you get comfortable enough with meditation to be able to actually get the benefits that you hear about from so many people? Are you actually bad at meditating, or are you just going about it the wrong way? There's so many misconceptions around meditation in society, but its benefits also have a very real basis in neuroscience and psychology. So in this video, I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks on how to have a better meditation so you can get past the learning curve and actually begin to reap the rewards of training your mind. Hey everybody, welcome to Consciousctrl, and in this video we're going to be talking about meditation, some common misconceptions, and basic tips for how to have a better meditation. Now, the first key tip is to always begin meditating with your eyes open and focusing on rhythmic breathing. Rhythmic breathing is essentially just controlling your breath to calm down your nervous system and get into a relaxed state of mind. I like to use a simple breathing technique used by the Navy SEALs called box breathing. Basically, you just inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and hold it for 4 counts again. Although the exact counts or rhythm that you choose doesn't really matter, it does help to have a specific structure of rhythmic breathing just for the sake of routine. Rhythmic breathing stimulates your sympathetic nervous system on inhales, which increases your heart rate slightly, and your parasympathetic nervous system on exhales, which decreases your heart rate slightly. This is called heart rate variability, and it's a good thing. By doing box breathing, you're manipulating your heart rate variability, reducing cortisol in your body and giving oxygen to your brain, and beginning to gain control over your nervous system. Again, the exact nature of the breathing exercise is less important than actually being consistent with it and choosing a pace that's slow and controlled rather than forcing it. Now, tip number 2 is that while you're gaining control of your breath, you should also be aware of your vision or your stream of visual attention. Your eyes are the only part of your brain that's physically outside of your skull, and for good reason. Humans actually rely on visual acuity more than any other animals besides birds of prey. Your eyes are also very representative of your mind's activity. If your vision is present, calm, and focused, chances are so are you. If your vision is internal, all over the place, and sporadic, likely so are you. There's lots of research behind this, but we'll cover that in future videos. For now, when beginning your meditation, focus on a single visual point in front of you and calmly hold your line of sight there. If your eyes move or stray away from the focal point, just move them back. Do this while you're doing your breathing technique before you've actually closed your eyes, and allow your eyes to calm down and become steady. This will result in a much smoother transition into your meditation, I promise. Once your eyes are actually closed, no matter what style of meditation you're doing, the most common probably being mindfulness, visualization, or transcendental, make it a point to refrain from using internal dialogue. Now, what I mean by that is try your best not to speak or use words internally in your mind. It'll probably happen anyways, but don't do it intentionally. You see, one of the ideas of meditation is to separate yourself, the part of you that makes decisions, observes things, and your essence as a person, from your thoughts, because those two things are not one and the same. The idea is to put enough distance between those two things so that yourself may observe your thoughts separately, as if yourself is watching some TV in your mind and that TV is streaming your thoughts and consciousness through it. You should be able to look away from that TV and even turn it off whenever necessary. The reason this all ties back into internal dialogue and using words intentionally is because both thoughts and internal dialogue originate from the same neural network, which is called your default mode network. Now, we'll have an entire video on the default mode network itself because it's very large, it's very important, and it's very prominent in a lot of research. But for now, I'm just going to call it your internal network for the sake of understanding. I call it your internal network because it essentially has to do with everything internally that you perceive and project inside of your mind, whether it's thoughts or memories or internal conversations or scenario projections, whatever the case may be. So therefore, if you were to say to yourself during meditation things like stop getting distracted, or don't itch your nose, or focus on your breath, or stop paying attention to the person next to you, you're actually fighting fire with fire. You're using your internal network to stop your internal network from distracting you. Obviously, this doesn't work out too well and can lead to a very frustrating meditative experience. So tip number 4 then is to instead try using intuitive actions. And what I mean by intuitive actions is doing things in your mind without words, only understanding via intuition. For example, if I ask you to show me something on your phone, internally, you're not narrating every movement. You're not telling yourself, extend my arm, grasp my phone, pick it up with my hand, unlock it. You're just simply doing it. There's no words involved, it's just quick and intuitive. So during meditation, if it's time to focus on your breath, just do it without saying anything. If your nose itches, just itch it or ignore it without words. It's easier said than done, but it's a good habit to practice, and in the long run, it'll definitely improve the quality of your meditations. Over time, you'll find that many things in life can actually be understood well without words, and that in many scenarios, your internal dialogue was actually just slowing you down and weighing you down. That being said, if random words or phrases or voices or songs are floating around in your head outside of your control while you're meditating, that's okay. Congrats, you're just as crazy as the rest of us. But let's treat that unintentional dialogue like any other thoughts and just dismiss them or avert your attention away from them. The real killer here is self-talk. Whether it's good self-talk or bad, we want to refrain from it altogether. Long story short, you don't want to use words of encouragement nor words of punishment in your mind while meditating. The real goal here is moments of silence. So, tip number 5 is directed specifically at people who think they're bad at meditating or think that meditation just really isn't for them. You think you simply can't sit still, your mind is going a million miles per hour, you can't get a moment of silence, and maybe it's just not for me. Honestly, this is exactly what I was saying before I started meditating consistently, and this is exactly what my friend tried to explain to me 100 times before it finally got through. So that being said, tip number 5 is about reframing distractions as repetitions. You see, meditation is an exercise for a reason. Humans think. It's in our nature. It's at the core of who we are and our consciousness. And the default mode network was labeled the default mode network for a reason. If you're getting frustrated at thoughts continuing to pop up or your mind continuously getting distracted and you take that as a loss every time, you'll never feel that you've won because it'll always happen. You'll never be satisfied with meditation and you'll develop a telephobia or the fear of not being good at something towards meditation itself and develop an anxiety that'll turn you off to meditation as a whole. Getting distracted does not mean that you're not good at meditating. Instead, you have to go into that meditation knowing that your mind will wander because it will, and treat every time that it does wander as a rep in your workout, an opportunity for conscious control. The more reps you knock out, the more you're going to grow. The more times you catch a distraction and rein in your wandering mind, the more you'll grow, the more conscious control that you'll build. Now, tip number 6 is during your meditation, treat your third eye like your real eyes. And I'm assuming there's plenty of different variations and interpretations as to what your third eye is. When I'm talking about your third eye, I mean your mind's eye, the focus of your attention when your eyes are closed. If you remember, tip number 2 was to calm your eyes and keep your vision steady to lead you into your meditation. But once your eyes are actually closed, your vision is out of the picture. Yet you still have vision internally. This is your mind's eye. Similar to your regular eyesight, the stability of your mind's eye represents the stability of your mind. If you're observing your breath or trying to, and you train your third eye on it, and then you get lost in a distraction, surely your third eye is also no longer observing your breath. Therefore, if you want to sustain your attention, you should focus on sustaining your third eye's vision on whatever the task is at hand. Rest your internal focus on the point of focus itself. This will make your internal network far less sporadic and easier to control. So tip number 7 is aimed at anybody who would consider themselves not a beginner at meditation, meaning you're already comfortable sitting in silence, you can meditate for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes comfortably, and you have a general idea of what you're doing. So my tip for those people is to walk into each meditation with a goal in mind. Are you meditating to recalibrate? Are you meditating to start off your day focused and in a sense of flow? Are you meditating to rest in between activities or to release stress throughout your day? Are you meditating to sort through emotional or internal struggles? Or maybe you're meditating simply to practice conscious control and work on self-improvement. Each of these goals should ideally have a slightly different meditation practice to achieve them. If you're clear about your intentions, your goals, and your methods beforehand, you're more likely to accomplish them. This channel will explore various different methods, techniques, and mechanisms of the mind so that you can train accordingly. Similar to how when walking into the gym, knowing what exercises you need to do to target the muscles that you want to target is important. Moving on to tip number 8. My tip here is to mix periods of focus with periods of rest. Your mind, like many things in life, works in phases, cycles, sine waves. After periods of high activity, inevitably comes periods of low activity. After a peak must come a crash. By delaying these shifts, you only exaggerate their effects, meaning if you try to sustain a high level of activity and focus in your mind for too long, the fall is going to be much more drastic and swift. You may have heard studies that say that a few minutes of break per every 40 minutes of focusing is optimal for performance. Well, you can apply that principle in several ways. For example, if you have a long work shift or a long study session, or really anything that requires your extended focus, energy, and attention, it can definitely be helpful to mix in mini meditative breaks into your workday to be able to maintain focus. I call these short meditations recalibrations, nothing more than 2 minutes, just simple opportunity to recalibrate your mind. However, at the same time, if you're going to do extended meditations like 20 or 30 minutes, it can also be helpful to mix in periods of breaks or rest in your exercise where you release all control over your mind, all focus on your breath, and you simply let your mind wander freely before reining it in again. Account for the dip of the wave beforehand and allow your mind to wander intentionally versus it happening more often on accident during the course of your meditation. And at the end of the day, you'll find yourself in control. Okay, tip number 9. Some things in life affect you emotionally and physically because they're supposed to, because they're important. If things are weighing on your mind and getting in the way of your meditation, don't avoid them, observe them. If your mind is trying to address something, trying to show you something, listen to what it has to say. Chances are it's important. Studies show that the best way to actually dismiss a thought is to engage with it first. You can think about it like your cell phone. If you get a notification and you never click on it, it's going to stay there. It'll never go away. But as soon as you read it, then the notification actually goes away and your thoughts work in much the same way. Tip number 10. Find what works for you. Anybody selling you a cure to your mental health is lying to you. Exercises like meditation, lifestyle habits, habits of highly successful people, all of those things are simply tools to make your life better. A tool doesn't do very much good if you don't know how to use it, and it does even less good if you never actually pick it up. Improving your life, having conscious control, manifesting outcomes, etc. will always be a decision. It will always be easy to make the wrong decision. It will always be easy to avoid the decision altogether. You have to be realistic with yourself and the goals that you want to achieve. If you truly want to change your life, you're gonna have to wake up 9 days out of 10 and make the right choices. Consciousctrl is about updating your software of your mind to be able to make those choices easier. Just to recap, my 10 tips for a better meditation are to start with rhythmic breathing, maintain calm awareness of your vision, avoid using words internally, and practice intuitive actions, reframe distractions as repetitions, maintain calm awareness of your third eye's vision, have a goal in mind, incorporate rest periods, don't avoid things that are weighing on your mind, and ultimately find what works for you. These are only tools, and it's up to you to figure out which ones work best for you and which ones you'd like to use in your daily life.